Hello my creative friends, I hope you're doing well today, and I hope this slightly echoey sound won't bother you too much, but I filmed this video without talking because sometimes it's just, it feels better to be in the flow. So I'm going to start covering these 2 pages in my journal where I was just practicing some ideas for a diary and planner for myself. I will tell you more about it when it's a little bit more ready. And I'm just covering with some oranges first, and then some bluey mauve color that is beautiful but does not mix with those oranges. So I'm trying to stay away from those and just covering up those pages in my usual fashion, not worrying about the marks in the background, to just add a little bit of texture. Now adding a little bit of this almost magenta pink that I absolutely love and use everywhere. But I'm going to need a little bit more of a pop because all of those colors go well together. I just need a little bit more contrast. So I'm going to use this beautiful rich purple, which is doing just that. I teach a workshop called Stamp Carving Amazing, in which you will learn to carve your own stamps, and this is the first one we create in the workshop. Perfect to start with for beginners, just practicing lines. So I'm going to show you how I use this stamp that we create together in the workshop in my journal. And as you can see, they make awesome stripes and beautiful texture on this spread. So I'm going to keep stamping on both pages. And absolutely love this effect, and the stamp was so easy to make, you will see. And this is the second stamp that we create in the workshop, practicing curves. And now we've got this beautiful little sort of rainbow shape stamp that you can use again in any of your art, especially art journals. And I'm going to use it to create some kind of a border on the top and the bottom of my pages, just rotating around so I can easily access both sides. And I'm pressing a little bit firmer around the middle because the spine is a little bit in the way of the stamp, so I really need to pay extra attention there. Next, I'm going to use a little bit of gesso, which I keep in a little tub, so I always have some handy on my studio table. And I'm going to use a thin paintbrush just so it makes it a little bit more easy to paint the gesso on the areas that I want to cover up completely. Now that everything's dry, I'm going to use one of my own hand-carved stamps, which you can easily create once you've taken my workshop. You'll be a pro at this, I promise. It's very easy and it's a great way to add more uniqueness to your art. And then once that's done, I'm going to color in some of the petals of this sort of hand-carved flower. I'm going to go back to my acrylic paint, and with a little bit of turquoise or light turquoise, I'm going to spread it fairly thinly on my background. And I'm using a baby wipe to remove any areas where there's too much paint, or if I accidentally cover up some of the gessoed areas, which I want to keep clean for now. And once I'm done with this light blue, I'm going to move on to a bit of yellow, which will look beautiful mixed with this turquoise and give me a little bit of green in some areas. And now I'm going to use another stamp that we create together in my stamp carving amazing workshop. This one's a little bit more detailed, but it looks gorgeous, and you can of course follow me along in the workshop and learn how to create this one and also any other designs you may have in mind. And I'm going to use some gold ink to add a little bit of subtle texture in the background. You guys know how much I love my gold by now, I'm sure. I always feel the need to add it somewhere. It just makes everything a little bit more special. I never really actually wear white gold. Yellow gold. I do love white gold. But in my art, I just put it everywhere. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up so we can see where we're at now. You can see the texture, you can still see some of the stamped area in the background when I originally started, and that's fine. I think it's quite fun to have some sort of mysterious details in the background. And you can see the gold little tree that I've just stamped here. It's very subtle and gives it a bit of reflection. Now, I told you how much I love gold, so I'm going to add a little bit more with some gold acrylic paint this time, and I'm going to cover up those white gessoed areas. Yes, there was a purpose all along. If I added the gold paint on top of my background without the gesso first, it wouldn't have been very shiny because the paint is quite transparent. So this is going to help me, and I may add a couple of layers of this gold just to make sure that it is shiny, but at least the background behind it is opaque. I'm going to give you another progress close-up so you can see the gold paint and how it reflects. Before moving on to the next step, which is a little bit more acrylic paint. Why not? Those white flowers are a little bit too white, so I'm going to color in some petals with this gorgeous aqua color. And then I'm going to take some pink to color in the rest of the petals. Just to add a little bit more texture, I'm going to use those two colors I've just used, or this sort of bluey color and pink, to add a few marks all the way around. And I'm keeping the center of my spread reasonably free because I'm going to add a quote later on. Next, I'm going to grab a white gel pen. You can use any of them really, they'll do the same thing. And I'm going to add some doodles all the way around the page just to create a little bit of interest and add a little bit of contrast as well. Just some little curves around the flowers and half circles around those gold arches we did earlier. And then I'm going to move on to a big fat gold marker pen to do the same. Just to add a bit more doodles and interest, but I want it to still stay subtle. So here's a close-up of where we're at now. I did some little gold dots and some little lines and doodly lines and that sort of thing. Just go crazy because it's quite subtle. If I'd used the black, it'd be too much, but white and gold, you can't go wrong. And now with the pencil, I'm going to trace my quote, just roughly to see where I'm going to go. And I decided to actually go with an intense pencil instead, just so I can sort of make a few marks and then use my water brush to go over those lines, and just to get a very faint outline, because I try not to mess up this quote and I want to make sure that it's reasonably centered. So here I am with my water brush, just going over those words. It's a little bit hard to see them, but don't worry, it will be obvious a little bit more later on. And just using, that sort of thing, the intense and the water brush, or you could also use a Neocolor crayon, just helps giving you a sort of non-committal kind of outline in the background. So I can see it and it's quite faint, but it's enough to see where I want to go. Once that's dry, I'm using a gold gel pen to go all the way over all those marks. And I'm going to go over a few times, also some of it off camera, just to make sure that it appears quite gold. But at the same time, I know the gold doesn't stand out too much, but I wanted it that way. I wanted the quote to be a little bit subtle, a bit more obvious when you move the book around instead. So there you go. Now you can see the quote that says, "We attract what we are ready for." It's very true. And you can see that only when I'm moving the pages around, you can actually see the words appear. So it gives it a little bit more of mystery, I think. Now I'm going to add a few more doodles around the page until I'm happy with the results. And I'm done. I'm going to show you up close how it's turned out. I absolutely love these pages, really do. And they're a very simple way to put your brand new stamps into practice. So make sure to check out my workshop. It's called Stamp Carving Amazing and it's for complete beginners. I'll put a link, of course, so you can get to it straight away in the description below. That's it for now.